Hi, it's Kat of Sweet Cat Magic. Recently had an interview with Joanna Devoe for her Kickass Witch series. I could never quite say that. Kickass Witch series, Every Which Way. She had asked me about magic and anything I could give as far as how I respond to it and what it is. And I briefly had said we had such a horrible connection that it was very hard to talk. But I had said something about once that intuition, that little nudge comes to you, and then it comes again, and it comes the third time or so, you need to act on it. And I'd like to give example as to two examples. One, how that worked in my life that ended up making a big difference. And this is before I was into my magical world. This was still when I was very, very involved in Mormonism. I had gone to a baby shower, and the expectant mother was there, and when I came in, I sat down and I talked to her, and was asking how things were going and when the baby was due and all that. And I looked down at her feet, just looked down at her feet, and in my head I heard she has toxemia. Never happened before. That was strange. Like, I'm not a nurse, doctor, medical, anything like that. I didn't know. She has toxemia. So I looked at her feet again, and I said, well, when are you going to the doctor? And she goes, well, my appointment's not until next week. And I said, I'm really concerned about your feet. I think you need to the swelling in your feet. They're very, very swollen, and I think you really need to get that checked out sooner. And she goes, no, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. So what I did is, those were the days before cell phones, and so I had gone into her bedroom bathroom to go to, use the telephone. I went to go to the bathroom, but I used the telephone and I called. At that time, it was her medical plan was Kaiser. I'd asked her about it, and I called Kaiser. They had one of those night nurses that answer the phones that you can ask, and I told them the concern I had, that she's very, very swollen. And they said, get her in here right away. So I went back out and I said, I spoke with someone I took the liberty and called someone, and they said, we need to get you in there right away. And she said, no, I'm not going to go. Jeff said I can't go until, Wednesday. And I go, well, what do you mean with Jeff says, if it's necessary, you need to go now. And she said, no. And I said, well, I'll talk to Jeff after the shower. So after the shower was over and everybody had gone, I went up to Jeff and I said, Jeff, I'm very concerned about your wife, and she needs to go to the hospital now. I think she has what they call toxemia, and it can be very dangerous for both her and the child. It could be life-threatening. I said, so we really need to take her tonight, like now. And he said, no. What? And he was a very Mormon head of the family. He says, no, you are not to interfere with my family. This is my family and you, and I am the head of my family, and I make the decisions. Okay, so that was my first one as far as kind of nagging at me, told me it had toxemia, so I thought, okay, I've done all I can. So I went home and woke up in the middle of the night. She's got toxemia. You've got to do something. And mine was, I've done all I can. I've talked to her. I've called the hospital. I've talked to her. I've talked to her husband. All of them told me to just, bug off. So, and I'm talking to myself. So there's nothing I can do. And then I tried to go back to sleep, but I couldn't. And I just tossed and turned all night. And in the morning, I just woke up and it came to me that I needed to get her to the hospital no matter what. So it was a Saturday morning, and just a minute. Felix, it's okay. Thank you. It's the mom. And so I went over to her house, kind of parked down the street, waited till her husband went to go play golf, because I knew he was a golfer on Saturdays. Knocked on her door, and I said, you have two choices. One, you can call the police and say a woman here is kidnapping you, and come and arrest her. Or two, you can get in my car right now, and I'm going to take you to the hospital. She very angrily looked at me, and she got in the car. And when we went to the hospital, they rolled her in, and I remember just stopping and kissing her on the cheek And I said to her, I did this because I love you. And she still kind of looked at me like, because like she was going to get in trouble is what she looked like. She was going to get in trouble. And so anyway, the long story was, when they took her in, the baby was dead. And it was 3 days before we found out that she would totally recover from the toxemia, which she had. We had a little funeral for the baby. I can remember, going with, we had a mutual dear friend, and she and I went to help pick out the casket and everything while Jeff stayed with her in the hospital. But what was interesting is that when I was there and the mutual friend was there in the hospital, and after 3 days they said that she could finally have visitors, and the nurse said, "Not you. She never wants to see you again," and she pointed to me, and then she let my friend go in. And I was just like devastated. She was never to talk to me again. And I think that was an order from her husband, that to have nothing more to do with me. And they were in our church ward at the time, so it made it for a very awkward situation. And from what only thing I could gather is I had interfered with their family, and because he was the priesthood holder, and I had taken upon myself to interfere with his family structure. It mattered not that I saved her life. But that's kind of the mindset it was. But the point that I was trying to make with this, rather than, isn't that crazy, which it is, it's crazy, is that once you get that message and you can't let it go. I thought I had done everything necessary, but I couldn't even sleep. And I came up to where I knew I would risk everything, even if it was to risk arrest. That's what it would take. So when that intuition really hits you, and I didn't know it was called intuition. I didn't know any of it. I figured it was the Holy Ghost at the time. But now I know it was intuition, because I've had that same thing happen when I have no Holy Ghost with me from the Mormon standpoint. So just wanted to share
right there
that.
Because I had run out of room. I had to delete some photos and videos, so I'm just ending it now tonight while I'm kind of laying in bed, putting this on the in the iMovie format. So anyway, the bottom line is let intuition be your guidance, and it's more powerful than you would ever imagine. I mean, it gave me words and information I didn't have any clue about. Aloha.